Now, one of the things that every electorate would like to see is the deliverance of the dividend of democracy, as the politicians would say. But what everybody would love to see is good governance. Now, some have argued that when they get into the office, they forget their promises to the people. And some others think that's not so. Well, so during the elections, we see a group of people go out to the streets, sit with the corn sellers or the plantain sellers, as the case may be, and do a bit of corn roasting and selling to the people. And then when they get into office, according to them, they hit the ground running, looking at youth empowerment, creating jobs, opportunities to innovate, and agricultural innovations. All of these things, they say, it's what they've been doing. Would the populace or the electorate say that this is so? Well, the government of Lagos State insists that it's been working to ensure that anyone and everyone that comes into Lagos feels the impact of governance. For instance, they are turning the road networks around, reconstructing and redesigning roads, creating opportunities for innovation to thrive, and giving grants to as many as have the right ideas and need to move forward. Is that so? Well, we sat down for a conversation with the Deputy Governor of Lagos State, and he talks about a couple of things. He mentions also the fact that anyone can come into Lagos and thrive. He also talks about the issue of multiple taxations, how you can differentiate between taxes and administrative fees. Newsnight sat down for a conversation with the Deputy Governor of Lagos State, Dr. Obafemi Hamzat, who talked to us about the works that are going on in Lagos and the plans for the future. Dr. Obafemi Hamzat, thank you for speaking to us on Newsnight.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you for having me.
Your Excellency, Lagos State is Lagos State in the sense that when anyone hears Lagos State, they're like, this is like the center of Nigeria. Some people have described Lagos as Nigeria, a microcosm of Nigeria, because everybody is in Lagos. And some people shoot me for saying this, Lagos is no man's land. But we know that nobody owns nobody. Lagos land belongs to somebody. But hey, what has it been like? I mean, this is the second 4 years, right? So what has it been like in Lagos?
Well, I mean, thank you very much.
Especially for a Lagos boy like you.
Yeah, thank you very much. So we went around the state seeking for their vote. So we understand what we are going into. The governor has been a commissioner, has been a special advisor. So we understand the trajectory of our state. We know where certain policies, why certain policies were put in place, and we know why it must be sustained or why it must be changed. Because we've been through that, So, and we went around the state talking to our citizens. Oh, we have the experience, and they trusted us. So we are not here to complain, to say, oh, it's tough. Well, we know it's tough, but we presented ourselves as people that understand what it takes, and that's what we are doing.
Now, when you say you're talking to the citizens, or any particular tribe or everybody?
No, everybody. We went during campaign. We went everywhere. We went to Alaba. We went to Festac. We went to Ajero. We went to the markets. We went to mechanics. We went to yam sellers. We went to everybody. Yeah. As long as we live in Lagos.
I remember in one of those campaigns, you and the governor were actually selling corn. Was it roasting corn or roasting yam?
Yeah.
And
so
selling?
So we went, and the essence was to say that it's for all of us. It's for everybody. It doesn't matter. As long as you are a citizen, you live in Lagos, you reside in Lagos, we will talk to you to see this our vision, want you to buy into it. Because when we get there, we will need people.
But in talking to the people, in this talking to the people, you classically you made the youth the focus of what you're doing in Lagos. And some would ask, why the youth? There's an older generation that needs to be taken care of as well.
Well, I mean, the truth is that we spoke to everybody, but we also understand that our future depends on our youth. So in 10, 15 years' time, a lot of us will be exiting the stage, allowing the younger ones to take positions and so on and so forth. In our cabinet, we have 30-something-year-old, we have 40 and so on. So we must start to prepare the youths for the leadership position. And as such, we at this age now, the 60s, the 65, the 70s, the 55s, we will be getting there soon to make sure that we retire, and then we want a good life if we retire. How do we do that if we don't talk to our youth? So it's our focus to make sure that the younger ones have what it takes to run this state, so to have the ability to do what is right.
In talking and dealing with the youth, permit me, let me just step back a bit. The EndSARS was a youth movement, so to speak, and it didn't end well, in quote, for Lagos State. So would you say Lagos has somewhat recovered and has gotten back its youth, even as we move away from this kind of situation?
Well, two components. When it started, if you recall, the governor, myself, we engaged the youths. We were the one that took the letter to Abuja to see the president and so on and so forth. But it didn't end well. So over 200 BRT buses, brand new, are destroyed. So those buses, the cost of procuring them is about 7 times now what it was then. So it's from the same purse. So buildings, courts, everything destroyed. And we're trying to rebuild. And you know, the tragedy is that these are assets for the common man. These are assets for the common man. The public works building that does our road through engaging people, which is a place where we used to train engineers. So imagine if you have a teaching hospital and your doctors don't perform surgeries. What does that mean? So these are institutions where we train pupil engineers who just finish on university, come and do work, come and understand how do you mix concrete, how do you walk on the street, how do you take measurement, what is the level? And it was destroyed. So what does that mean for the future of the youths? So we cannot continue to destroy our own assets. It's counterproductive. And that's why we've engaged our youth to say, look, it's okay for us to protest, no problem. But it's not okay to destroy. We learned that when we were in universities. Okay? I went to University of Ibadan and we fought. We were doing our Luther, yes. But when we were coming back, our parents were made to pay. And in the process, some of us drop off because their parents cannot pay at the time. I remember. What has happened to them? Because we destroyed the assets that were used to train us. And they said, okay, before you come back, sign and your parent must pay this. Some of our colleagues drop off. And that cannot be good.
In engaging the youth, now, yes, they say the idle mind is the devil's workshop. So the youth so far, would you say the youth have really been engaged in Lagos to the point where we're having miscreants off the streets? Would you say that's happening?
Well, so Lagos, like you said, has a land of 0.4% in terms of land mass of Nigeria, but we have 10-11% of the population. So what that means is everybody is coming to Lagos. And, it's like osmosis. Water will flow to where the barrier is less, right? So people want prosperity. However, there are also challenges. People come to Lagos and there are no addresses where they want to stay. You understand? So we've done a lot of initiatives to make sure that our young people are engaged. And my take when I address the youth is, so age is not something that is given to you. Age is something that you must take advantage of. So you are born year 0, 1, 2, 3. That is a natural phenomenon. Okay, it's not your doing that you are age 4. So it's an advantage given to you by your creator, and you must take advantage of it because we've all gone through there. So you started as age 1, 2, 3, and so on. So if you don't take advantage of it, it will go. And there's nothing anybody can. So that's what we are telling our youths in Lagos. There are enormous amounts of programs in different areas, entertainment. Every time in October, GuiTech will take startups to Dubai. Start young people, young graduates. I know a lady that started a program called Pocketbook. And what did she think of? She was doing her NYC. And she realized that where she was sent to, she could not find the food that she likes. She was like, how is it that in Nigeria I can't afford? And she started what you call pocket food. Setting up kitchens so that you can get. She got a grant of $100,000. So using our brain. So that's what we do in Lagos. Do you have ideas? Can we work with you to make sure that we fund that idea and you make money? And so what do you have as a youth in your head that we can help you to work with? How do we nurture you? So we have different agencies to say, okay, you are starting a business. Do you know how to keep your books? So we train you, get you mentors to say, okay, you are making money, but this is how to keep a book. This is how to invest. This is how to sustain it. Because we've seen that for MSMEs, the challenges within the first 2-3 years, a lot of them dies off. How do we prevent that? What do we need to do? So agencies like Lagos State Employment Trust Fund has trained thousands, giving people grants, giving some people loans to single, depending on what you are doing, making sure that how do you source your products? How do you make sure that logistically you reduce your cost of product? So we're training them in different areas of business, not just give people grants and leave them on their own. So we've engaged youth depending on the skills. So in entertainment, we've trained over 10,000, photography, cinematography, script writing. What skills do you have that we can help you with? So we've done that, and of course, it's always a moving target. There will be people that say, oh, they just trained me this, and people will come.
So, Your Excellency, does it mean that we're announcing to the world that you have an idea, come to Lagos, there's a grant waiting for you?
No. That's not. So every state must be doing certain things. I know more about Lagos because of my position. But I'm sure that Ogun State is doing a lot, or Osun State, or those, everybody.
No, sorry, permit me to take you away from Lagos briefly and ask you, when you guys meet at the Governors Forum, I thought these are conversations you have, peer review mechanisms. I say, this is what we're doing. What are you doing on your end? So that coming together, we can minimize especially the unemployment rate among the youth.
Well, I mean, I'm not the governor of Lagos.
But you sometimes
represent my governor. So, and I know that happens a lot. There's a lot of peer review that happens, and it's coordinated by the Secretariat of the Governors Forum. What they do is they look at different pillars. So agriculture, what are you doing in agriculture? How can we copy it? Or, do you have the competitive advantage? So what are you doing in science and technology and innovation in Lagos? What can we take away from it? So there are a lot of peer review that goes on. I know that presentations and all those. So, but each state will now look at what is good for them.
Yeah.
Where do they have competitive advantage and try to see how they can implement.
Back to Lagos now. You've talked about what's being done to empower the youth, some with nascent ideas that are nurtured and grown. But let's look at the numbers. In terms of jobs, when you say, for instance, one time there's this news out there that Lagos created over 1,800 jobs generated through the operation of the Lagos Bus Service Limited. What kind of jobs are those? Are low-paying jobs, low-income jobs. Yes, at least they'll get them off the streets, but how many young people do you think will be looking towards that?
No, so I think the notion that the low-paying job might not be correct. And I'll give you an example. When we were building the Lekki Link Bridge, so the contractor told us that they are going to another country, a neighboring country, to bring in welders. We said, why? He said, they can't just find certified welders. I said, okay. So that's why our tech vocational center in Igodo and the rest, we turned it to a welding station. We trained over 700 and they started working at that place. When they finished, let me shock you, a lot of them got job. This Naval Yard in 700,000 at the time per month. 700,000 welders. So what is important is be the best at what you do. Okay, so some of these young people actually get into mechanical work to repair buses. And they get paid well, they have skills. And they can now even get into private sector. One of the challenges we also have is when we train them, some of these private companies take them, which is fine. Because then, buses that work on the road, Dilichuku, all of them, GIG, the Young Child, and the rest, they need mechanics. Somebody needs to maintain those buses. And they can take them from us. It's okay. We just need to train more. So, like I said, different pillars. So, for example, look at agriculture. So, we have women. And in fact, the program that we were doing there, we said 10% must be people living with disability. And 10% of them in agriculture. Small nets, people that have zero in their account at the end of the year were having 2 million. And, it's for somebody that doesn't have anything before, to have that skills, to wake up in the morning to say, I'm going to work. And then at the end of the day, I can put a food on the table for my family. That's the essence. And then a lot of people will scale it up. Not 100%. And then farmers are now coming to Badagry to come and buy fishes, rice, whatever it is. Small scale. But hopefully a lot of them can upscale. But at least give people that skill, the knowledge, to say, oh, I know I can do this. And then a lot of people will take it up. So in different areas, we've been able to do that. Like, for example, I just told you about the Lagos State Employment Trust Fund. So there's a lady, a lawyer, that said that when she was growing up, she likes, what we call a wagon.
Yes.
Exactly. Very popular in Lagos. And what was she doing? That stew that goes with it, that's what she was putting in the bottle. It's bottled and it can last 6-9 months. That's what she trained as a lawyer. And it's amazing when I saw her, it's over a year now. She's doing very well. So the essence is, how can she start? What does she need to start? And that's what the grants will do. The training will, because now, she studied law, but that's not lawyering, right? So she needs skills to understand, okay, I'm doing how do I get those bottles? How do I seal them? What machines do I need? And that's when our board will come in and say, okay, these are the manufacturer. This is how you can do it. This is where a lot of people are doing. That's why you can share, so that the cost of transportation will reduce and so on. And so it's in different areas, and it depends on the skills and what you want to do. Our job is to make sure that you can fly.
So in this space, in the space of leadership, in Nigeria's space, for instance, there's the politicians or the leaders and the led, the politicians and the electorate. And many times the electorate feel like, you guys are not working with us. You don't understand what we need. You're telling us what you think we need. So in all of these ideas, for instance, the jobs you're creating, turning the vocational center to a welding center, is it what the people have asked that they want? Are you giving them what they want?
Absolutely. The data supports that. So because, for example, let me give you an example. The Lateef Jakande Academy, where we are training fellows. And what they do is they shadow each one of us. They shadow a commissioner, they shadow me, they shadow the governor, every one of us, and they rotate them so that they understand. So every meeting that I'm having, they are there. Everywhere I'm going, they are there. Every project we are conceptualizing in the Ministry of Works, they are there. We started with 30 last year, just 30. And we had an application for 418,000. 418 for 30 positions. So it shows you that people are interested. So when Women Affairs and Poverty Alleviation does graduation or skills acquisition to train people in small things, how do I even, cooking, this? A young graduate came out to say that, interestingly, she is from your state, from Cross River. I can't recall the name, I think Obong something. And he told us that, look, when I finished school, I was thinking, what would I do? And then he saw, and he went into cooking. So after the training, they gave her a stove, pot, and now he has 3 other stores. So today, before they were doing like 90 slots for cooking, but now they have over 1,000 applications. So they have to scale it up. So every time we advertise this thing, when Women Affairs did their last graduation, 3,900 people graduated. But they told us that, sir, we must scale this thing up because the interest is showing. So when people apply, for something, and the number exceeds what we plan for, it shows clearly that we are talking to them. It shows clearly that people are seeing, because they are also seeing their colleagues that are doing well, that are moving on. And it has effect in the community that, look at Mr. A, look at Miss B. She was doing this now. I also want to do the same thing. Event planning, all sorts that people are saying they want. And then, so the number that we are seeing justifies that really people are interested in this at all levels, So in fact, our challenge is, how do we keep scaling up? How do we keep scaling up to make sure that we meet those needs?
So in talking about the challenges you get to meet, there's another challenge that many people coming to Lagos to want to do business or to sell their ideas appear to be having. The question of multiple taxations, both official and unofficial. Is that also being considered?
Oh, yeah. So there is a committee, well, at the national
I'm sure
level.
you know the unofficial taxations.
No, I know what you mean. PEBEC is something that, that's the a council that set up, headed by the vice president, and I chair that of Lagos to say ease of doing business. What do we need to do? And you will notice that in Lagos, every quarter we meet, we call it corporate assembly. BOS meets private sector. So we meet. The last one we did, we realized that, so our constitution actually has 3 layers, okay, local government. And the constitution allowed them to tax certain items, the state and federal. So there are different responsibilities. So we realized that some of the things that our companies were talking about are things that we really don't have control. Customs, FRS, CBN, currency fluctuations, and the rest. So the last assembly, we've promised the one before that, we'll bring them. So Governor Central Bank was represented. FRS came. Custom was there. NAFDAC was there. NDLE was there, and so on. So that company can talk to them to say, oh, okay, these are the issues that the state have, and we are taking off. And then, but federal, because you are not always at that meeting, we always write, but bring your people. So that's what we can do. Because like we said, we all sat down, our constitution says, I have this right to do this. We can't stop it. But how can we do it better? Now, let me now tell you. So if you look at what the constitution also says, it says that local government can charge, if you have an asset, land-based asset, local government can charge ground rent. And state can charge neighborhood charge. Right? So there are 3 taxes. 1 for the local government, 1 for the state, 2 for the state. So what we did in Lagos is, that's why we have the land use charge, to say that for this tenement, you just get 1 bill. How we distribute it behind is, and that's the cooperation that we have with local government. Constitutionally, everybody has the right to send that bill. So, which means you now get 2-3 bills on the same property. It doesn't make sense. So that's why we said, okay, let's come together as a state. We are within a state. That's why we have the land use charge that you pay once, but we now distribute behind the scene. The same thing, that's why we set up LASA, the advertising agency. Constitutionally, it's local government that charges. The challenge is this. You have different local government. So you have a boss, and you have the name of your company, Hamzat and Company. So I'm going through Oshodi. I go to Koshofe. Koshofe will now say, you don't have this one. Well, you are in Koshofe now. We said, well, this cannot make sense. Why don't we come together? That's why we formed LASA. To say, okay, as long as you have that's it across the state. How they distribute it, so the board, as chairman of local government, as members of the board, state, and so on and so forth. And then we take the chairman from different zones so that they can represent each other, and the distribution is done behind the scene. So in Lagos, we are trying a lot to make it easier within the law that we all signed up for, to make sure that the local government is able to do its work, is able to do well. The state is also able to do its own, but the citizens don't feel the pressure of everybody just coming.
We've talked about the youth empowerment. You mentioned agriculture a bit, and then you went on to talk about land, taxes, and issues like that. But many people who live in Lagos are seeing a lot. For instance, someone described Lagos as a construction site. Is that part of your social development program? Because these construction sites are causing huge traffic buildup in certain areas.
Well, so you know that I'm sure you've heard it many times. People say, oh, we don't have maintenance culture. We don't have maintenance. So part of what we are doing is also to maintain our assets. So these bridges, so they have expansion joints that must be maintained. If not, it puts pressure on the structures below. So part of what we are doing is to make sure that we fix those structures that allows us to move around. Unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be another means of maintaining them without causing disruption. And that's why sometimes we don't do everything at once. Okay, so for example, now you notice that we are doing expansion joint repair on Osborne, going to Third Mainland Bridge. We are doing at Oduyalaru and the Korodu Road because they need to be changed. It's been over 10 years. Some of them are designed to last 10, 12 years, but when you actually also measure because of the traffic load on them, and then you see that the pressure, when it's supposed to be like 7, is already now 4, you have to go and change it. If not, you spend more money later to maintain that bridge. So that's what we are trying to do. But we also make sure that we educate the citizens to say, don't take this place, take this diversion, take this road. But those assets need to be maintained so that you can use them for the next 50, 100 years.
Talking about the citizens in Lagos and all that you're doing, earlier you were talking about youth empowerment. But let's look at innovation and startups. Between 2020 and 2024, you mentioned earlier about 80 innovative startups, all founded by youth, and that's growing. But is 80 enough for a place like Lagos to create more jobs, to take up the many people who are graduating? Every year, I know that the minimum of 1.5 million graduate from the universities. So what happens to those people? Do we have enough jobs in Lagos, for instance?
Well, we don't have enough. Yeah. And the essence is to make sure that, but what we are trying to do is to create wealth among us. So if you look back at the history, it was Lagos state government that said because Yaba is strategically located, we have university there, we have technical college, we have polytechnic, we have young people there. That's at that time, years back, around 2010, 2009, 11, that's when we pushed bandwidth there. And a lot of tech startups actually flourished from Yaba. So now Lagos state government is also trying to build a kite in knowledge, innovative technology, and employment site in Yaba, which allows people to not necessarily have money to buy spaces, they share assets, you need your laptop, you come in, you develop, and then you have people that can actually take your innovation and then actually fund it for you. So we set up agency that we call LASRIC, Lagos State Science and Research Innovation Council, headed by private sector people. I think it was headed by the former Vice Chancellor of the University of Lagos, now University of Science and Technology Lagos, and private sector people. What they do is they listen to young people that have ideas. And they say, oh, okay, this makes sense. Let's fund you. And it varies. So those are but the idea has to make sense. Because remember, the funders don't have to be Nigerians. They can be anywhere from the world. Therefore, they make sure that these are ideas, and then they help you to say, oh, well, it's good, but why don't you think of it this way? And when it comes up like that, they're able to fund it. So, but like I said, that's one pillar. There are many other pillars where you can fall into in transportation. We have a Ministry of Employment and Work Creation. The people are also being trained there. We have Ministry of Women Affairs and Poverty Alleviation. That's also there. So there are many pillars upon which we have Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Science and Technology, and so on and so forth. And remember, we also create jobs through our construction. When you are building a bridge, hundreds of people will work there. When you are building housing, people will work there, schools and the rest of it. So there are many areas. But what is important for the science and technology one, for the startup, is we are trying to create a mini Silicon Valley. And the impact on our GDP and the future of innovation and knowledge economy you can only imagine it. So we as a people, we must look at it. It's not just about just creating jobs. No, it's creating a direction for the future of this state and the future of this country. To say that let us have an area where we can actually solve any problem. Think of it that why can't we have a center that if any problem comes up through innovation, we can solve it in this country? So how do we get younger people to align with that thought? It's okay to make money. Remember, the people that actually develop United States of America through technology, they are not rich people. A lot of them are university professors, dean of MIT, and so on and so forth, right? So, but they created a platform that allows people to say, if I have idea, I can bring it up and it can be developed. And their children are now the one making the money. So, but in our own case, we are lucky. There are so many young people in Nigeria that actually work overseas and they are paying dollars. They are being paid in dollars today. Their grandfather don't have that opportunity, but technology has made it easy. So how do we plug into that?
Getting this youth now, for instance, is that what, for instance, I do know that Lagos does this exchange program where you take some youth and you sponsor them for an exchange program. How is that working out? Is that in any way helping this project of creating startups?
So what it tells you is, first of all, they want to know about us. That's the essence of exchange program, really, even in the university. Let's even understand these people. Let them also understand us. And I recall about 7-8 years ago, University of Ibadan was doing that. And the students will go to Spain and they will come to Ibadan. So they will have arranged with different families and the children will come from Spain and stay there for 3-4 weeks and so on. Okay, but when the strike started, the whole thing ended. But what that's supposed to do is to make sure that even our children can then go to universities there. Okay? Do their BA Masters, do their PhD. And then what problems can they solve for us there using their university and what problem can we solve for them? That's the essence. So we must understand that every action that we take have consequences. So, and unfortunately, the world is now global. So whatever we do here has effects around the world. And whatever they do there also affect us. And as such, our decisions cannot just be about us alone. It must say, how does it play out locally and, of course, internationally?
So how are these youth leaders selected, the ones you use for the exchange? How do you go about selecting? I mean, across Lagos State, 10 youth leaders selected for the exchange. How do you select them?
Well, they do it themselves most of the time. So we throw it out. We are doing this program. So, they have youth councils and they have their executive council. They have the president. They have this, they have that. And then we just say, okay, we want to do this program. There's space for X number. And then they start the process. Of course, we vet it to make sure that it's fair and free. And then through their system, to throw up people that we now interview and say, okay, good to go. So, but we engage them and make sure that they are part of the process so that they can see. It's only when they see that it's free and fair that they can support it. So when you engage them from the beginning, then it makes more sense to them.
The communication between the leaders and the leg. The question was, how often does the leadership sit with the people to have this conversation?
Well, in Lagos,
to say, this is where we're going. This is what we're planning. You talked about, for
instance,
Lagos. Let me just list some of the things.
No, let me tell you this.
You're looking at people living with disability. Yes. About 350 people living with disability are participating or participated in a 5-week entrepreneurship program. Now, you'll be shocked that not many people even know that there was an opportunity like that for people living with disability. And then how were those people selected? The other one, you talked about job and wealth creation. These are some of the things that you're doing in Lagos. But you'll be shocked that not too many people know about it, because what happens is they will know. And then you leave room for speculation.
Well, I hear you. I mean, it's always good to have feedback. We can always do better. There's no question about it. But that's why we have different agencies of government. Okay? You know that sometimes we do papers that says these are the things we do. We take it to even where people, Baba Jebu sites, so that people can even see it. Our people go on with cars, with loudspeakers to say, there is cholera, please don't do this. They go round markets. On television, yesterday in Ekpe, we met with a host of Obas were there, market women, everybody was there. What were we discussing? Budget. That's what we do in Lagos. We go around every part. Just yesterday in Ekpe, that's what we did. And people will say, in my community, these are the things we do. So we allow budget to be organic. Now, at the end of the day, by the time we tally everything, it can be 7 trillion naira. Of course, we don't have 7 trillion budget. So we might not be able to then do everything. Our budget is 1.something trillion. So, but we know the request. So out of 4, maybe we will do 1. But we understand it. So we are meeting at different levels, at different areas. And like you said, so for example, look at the people living with that. We have an agency that is called LASCODA. That is an office dedicated. And the head is somebody that actually lives with disability. So, and that agency, that's their responsibility. What they do is people living with disabilities specific. So they deal with albinos. They buy skin cream to protect. They deal with people, they buy braids. So because they know they live in that space. They live in that community and they know. All they do, so they do their specific, but when they go, sometimes they don't go with press because they are just dealing with human issues. You understand? They are dealing with human issues. And sometimes they don't even want you to follow them. Because
the press doesn't have to be everywhere.
Exactly. So they want to solve problems. So maybe that is what we need to do better. I don't know. But the reality is we have all these agents and they know how to get to their people to say, these are the needs. But we must communicate better. I agree.
Are they really getting to? Because if they are getting to the people, yes, the people will communicate. You don't even need the press.
But I told you.
Are they?
But I told you that every time we do programs. So, for example, we just did health units in 24 centers across the state. So
health units.
So we did, eye check, blood pressure in 24 centers across the state. We have volunteers, we have everything. We were expecting maybe 150,000. That people that came were 500,000. So that we are now saying, the people say, well, next time we do, maybe 24 centers is not enough. Maybe we should look for 48 centers. So our people are coming. So if we now sit down and there is nobody, then we say, maybe we didn't advertise this thing enough or whatever. So our challenge is we have enough on our hands to solve these problems. To say they are having issues, let's go and resolve it.
Dr. Hamzat, this conversation is really interesting, and for me, I don't want it to end, but time is not our friend. But I will not let you go without asking this question, what Lagos is planning to do. Lagos is below sea level, geographically speaking. Lagos is below sea level. So there's a tendency for Lagos to be flooded. Says he, in his word, there is no evacuation plan for Lagos. But some other person, a geographer, talks about the fact that if the water bodies are dredged, Lagos can still contain the water. And the lagoon was actually designed to do that. What's the plan? Is Lagos State government looking in that direction as well? To reduce the levels of flooding in Lagos?
I think people say all sorts of things. So the first thing is this. Lagos did a GIS where we map geographic information, where we map every inch of our land. We flew. We are doing a review now. We are doing a review. We did a bathymetric chart of all our water bodies and creeks. We know the depth at each location to say this is it. So when people say, if you dredge what? So you want to dredge a whole body of water. A sand in water is like a living thing. They actually move in the body of water. So you can't, it's more than that. We are dredging, for example, for specific reasons, for water transportation and so on. Those you can measure to make sure that our boats move well. We dredge to make sure that our pumps that sucking in water from rivers are actually not getting sand. We dredge. So we are dredging because we get our raw water from Ogun River. We are dredging Ogun River now to make sure that our intake water pumps can. So we do that. In terms of drainage, a lot of people they are right. Lagos is below sea level, and that's why we have a fantastic drainage system that we call Systems 1 to System 6. Now, each system is a network of canals. So a system, for example, start from Agege, go through Ogba, and discharge at Odeyalaro. That's one system. So when we were doing that road, Acme Road, the drain, if I go inside that drain, they can put me on top of each other. It was about 3 meters. 3 meters. So because we know that the volume of water that will come from Agege and the rest to that place. So that's what we've designed. So what happens is this. All over the world, you can see what is happening. You can see what Biden has done in Texas. You've seen what has happened in Philippines. We've seen. So the Atlantic that gets to UK is what gets here. So whatever happens there will affect us also. So, but what we are doing, what everybody is doing is adaptation and mitigation. Now, it starts from where in your kitchen. How do we discharge our garbage? That's why we are saying let us sort. That's why we are doing this. So that, because it ends somewhere, we don't want it to end in our drain. So we have a connection, also. And remember, some few months ago, we were removing structures on our drainage canals. And some people wanted to weaponize it. That's not the idea.
Yeah.
So we said that Lagos will be 40 million people. Where are they going to live? We must be ready. We must be ready. If we are busy producing babies, we must plan for them. But if you now go and build near the drainage canal, you are mortgaging the future of those children. And that's why they must, you remove them. It has nothing to do with where you come. What does that got to do with anything? So, our preparation, so whoever says we don't have evacuation plan doesn't know anything about Lagos. We have an office that is called Office of Resilience. There is a PhD holder, a lady, that is in charge of that office. So when we bought 66 trucks, it's not by accident. We know the number that we need in case of accident. How do we deploy them? So that office is responsible for subjecting our state to various theoretical shocks. If this happens, what should we do? How should we deal with this? If there is this happening, what do we do? That's why we have a BS Lab 3 in Lagos. Before COVID, after what's the name of that we had before? Ebola. After the Ebola, that's why we have it. We are upgrading that now so that we don't want to get into culturing but at least let's understand what is happening in our society. So we are biological, medical, environmental. We simulate every time to say if this happens, what should we do? So whoever says there is no plan, well.
So Lagos is on course.
Of course. We have our plans. We know that's why we just released our development plan for the next 50 years. We just released it, right? And it's very clear. What do we want the future of Lagos? We said we must be the human capital center of the world. We have these young people. How do we train them to provide? That's why we're building universities. That's why we are building a university of medicine and allied science to say that today we are only allowed to produce only 150 medical doctors each time. We want to turn it to 1,000. So that we know some of them will jackpot. Okay, but let us keep training. It's good for us to even export great things, not Yahoo or whatever. So, but how do we make sure that our systems
But this Yahoo thing, there are very few compared to the number of the good ones.
Exactly. And that is the point. So let's highlight the good things that we are doing. So that's why in our preparation, that's where we are building those new universities. Hopefully we'll get NUC applications. So by 2024, we start. So training. So we know where we want Lagos to be. And we'll keep pursuing it.
Dr. Hamzat, as we go, if you had a chance to do this again, what would you change? What would you do different?
Well, maybe like you said, maybe we need to communicate better. We need to improve on our communications, get people more involved. Because I think if people actually understand what we are doing, the thinking behind what we are doing and what we've done, I think they will be happy. So we need to find a way to make sure that our citizens understand what we are doing and why we are doing it. So we talk to experts like you to help us make sure that we communicate better. So I think communication is key. In terms of hardcore infrastructure, social impact, and so on, I think we've started well. I think we are doing well. Like we keep saying, we build blue line, red line, and the rest. We are the only sub-sovereign in the world that's able to do that. And people say, oh, it took a long time. It's true. Because again, we are the only sub-sovereign. It's not easy. It's a monster, financial monster. And it takes a lot from us. But we were determined to say, well, let's just keep at it. Because we know that a city like us, with this population, we must find a better way of reducing the number of transportation on roads to rail and to ferries.
So someone mentioned somewhere that the yellow buses are going to go to give way to more trains. How quickly is that going to happen?
Well, I mean, if the trains are there, people will make their decision. Which one will they take? So if the trains are there, so very soon, by God's grace, the red line has started now, testing. The blue line will get to Kukumaiko. So, there will be no traffic. So they can just go. You are going from Agege. From Agege, you are going to Marina. What will take you 2.5, 3, is now going to take you 35 minutes. Well, you will take that. So it changes the structure of things. So if rail transportation instead of 1% now takes 10%, it means the number of vehicles must reduce. And that gives us less carbon and the rest of it. People might not need to drive to office every time. They might need to just take train. And our ferries are coming up also. We just commissioned 15 new ferries, 40-seaters, built in Nigeria by training people. So young people are building those ferries. So by the time we get to 50, 60, and we are encouraging private sector to also come in. By the time we get to 200, 300, well, and people are using it, it's safer. We've built a center where LASWA can monitor all our waterways. They know what is happening at every point in time. So it's safer. As long as people, there are protocols, wear your vest and don't go after certain time. As long as it's one of the safest. And therefore, like I said, we've dragged. So by the time we do that, the use of road will go down. And therefore, certain things will shift.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Well, as they always say, all good things will have to come to an end sometime, and this is where we have to end today's conversation. I want to thank you again for letting us be a part of your day. You can also be a part of this conversation. Send us a message, send us a mail. Let's know what you think about the conversation. Is Lagos the Lagos you dream about or the Lagos you want to see? And all the other conversations we've had. Our handles are right there on your screen. We'll be waiting and loving to hear from you. Also, watch this program again or all the past episodes. Just go to our website, channelstv.com/podcast to get started, or youtube.com/channelsweb. You see the playlist there, the Newsnight playlist in particular, and you can get into all the conversations we've had. Interesting conversations, you might say. But till we bring you another edition of the show, this is us saying bye-bye.